Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Our Thread, the podcast, bringing our content to you. I'm All It Is, and I'm here with my chaps, Beware, Cap, Doc, and Savage. And today, we bring you episode 16, Rushmore versus the Usual Suspects. Two movies from the 90s on opposite sides of the spectrum, leaving a long-lasting impact on all of our Thread members. Some themes we're starting to see in our Thread is that some movies have a long-lasting effect that first time you watch the movie, while others may or may not have that effect on you right away. But what they do have is the effect to become great and even greater each time you watch them. But before we find out which movie is greater, let's give a special shout out to tonight's sponsor, vote.org, the easiest way to register to vote online. In less than 2 minutes, you can register to vote with other easy options like requesting to vote by mail. Go to vote.org today and make your vote count. Folks, I'm excited to get into tonight's battle breakdown, but not before we hear that intro music produced by Beware. Let's go.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Well, it's very, homey.
What? Are you kidding? We got us a family here.
I hope you realize how you hurt my feelings.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud. Next place.
Just take it easy, man.
I'm perfectly confident.
Yeah, waving the fucking gun around?
Calmer than you are.
Look, I made a mistake, all right? It didn't make any difference anyway.
Hey, I'm letting it go. But don't say it doesn't matter. Every line matters.
Get off my back!
Don't fuck with my plan!
And like that, he's gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Our Thread podcast, bringing our content to you, featuring All It Is,
It's official, old buddy. Who has been.
Beware,
From then on, he was known as Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
the Doc,
You're the doc, Doc.
the Cap,
If you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask? Big fuck!
and myself, Savage.
I'm 6'5", 220, and there's two of them.
Homework's in. Let's begin. Tonight, I propose a question as we get into our synopsis of these films. Did both these movies age well? Let's go to Savage, who last week told us about two films his dad showed him back-to-back on one sick day home from school. That was last week's Fallen movie, Seven, and this week's movie, The Usual Suspects. Savage?
Yeah, like as we alluded to in the previous episode, I did see Seven and The Usual Suspects for the first time in a back-to-back viewing when I was in 8th grade, so it would have been like 1998. Both these movies have held up, I think, very well, but I think Rushmore probably has held up a little bit better just because the way Wes Anderson makes films is it's kind of like a fantasy story that kind of is like a time capsule in itself of like a fictitious time in a fictitious place in a fictitious city, kind of like how Royal Tenenbaums did it, and a million of the other movies that he's made have kind of done the same thing. So I think as a whole, Wes Anderson's movies generally hold up a little bit better from like a rewatching standpoint. Obviously, Usual Suspects, that movie will affect you once very, very hard, and that's on the first viewing. It's one of the if not most incredible endings in any movie I've ever seen, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with me on that. Also, when you watch The Usual Suspects subsequent times after the first time, you know the end. You're just waiting for the payoff pitch. You know it's coming, so you're not looking at it with those fresh eyes that you were like you did the first time you watched it. So I do think that like the reviewability or rewatchability of like The Usual Suspects does go down a little bit because that first viewing is so hard hitting.
We've had a few movies like this. Obviously, Seven was one, Zodiac two,
Shawshank.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's what
sure.
I was looking for.
Yeah, no. So I think that they both really, hold up relatively well. I do think Rushmore's a little bit better in that respect. So.
Thank you, Savage. Doc, I think you had an announcement you wanted to make.
Well, first, yeah. So actually, it's Sweet Amy's birthday today. So kind of want to give her a shout out.
Happy birthday, Sweet Amy.
Happy birthday, Sweet Amy.
Happy birthday.
She's one of our avid listeners, so she'll be tuning in. Had a great weekend. And actually, she had never seen The Usual Suspects, and I didn't realize that until we actually started watching it. So I was even more excited. Like, I get to kind of like live vicariously through her watching it for the first time, and it was fun. She was super into it. She was kind of guessing along the way, and I had to, zip my lips, and so it was fun watching it with somebody that is into movies but had not seen that. So it was a really good time. And the other thing that I kind of wanted to mention, and I do agree with what Savage was saying. I think Rushmore, I won't repeat what Savage said, but basically I agree. It's special in its own right. It's just a great story, great character, and it kind of transcends a time and space, and it's a special little fairy tale. And Usual Suspects, though, I honestly, like, I thought, and I'm being honest, I hadn't seen this movie in years, but I was really underestimating Usual Suspects and was really thinking this is going to be I'm probably going to think this is a campy 90s movie, and it's going to be corny in some areas, but I loved watching it. We watched it last night or the night before, and it was an awesome experience. Even though I knew the ending, it was really enjoyable. That said, I don't want to distract too much from tonight's episode, but listening to the opening kind of thread music, I've noticed that pretty much a vast majority of the audio drops that we have in there we've already watched those movies. I think 10 of the 15, I did some quick math. So I don't know if that, so I think real quick, we got The Truman Show, The Shining, Raising Arizona, Big Lebowski, Rushmore, Usual Suspects, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Master, Social Network, to name a few. We've already watched those movies, and I hate to put this out there on anybody.
That's all of them.
Doing it. Yeah, but like, maybe it's time to update it with some kind of what we got coming on for the next round, because we're at the 16th episode, which is halfway through the first round.
Consider it done. I know a guy. I love that. And of course, when we had those clips in there, I didn't know what that last one was. And like that, it's gone. I'm like, I know I picked only movies in our list, but I totally forgot where that was from. So that quote hit me really hard when it came on. I was like, yes, cool. Beware. What is your synopsis of these movies? And do you think they aged well? Beware.
Movies quite different from one another. Obviously, Usual Suspects is kind of an action-packed traditional whodunit. Rushmore is a comedic coming-of-age prototype Wes Anderson movie. That was the thing that I took away from Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson's got some cliches associated with his movies, for better or worse, depending on if you like his movies or not, and that quirkiness that he brings to the table. This one definitely checks all of those boxes and then some. I like his movies, so obviously I was down for that. Whereas Usual Suspects and all those boxes, to Sav's point, they do age well. To answer your question, he's just a very refined director, so of course it's going to age well and stand the test of time. Where Usual Suspects, does it stand the test of time? In terms of the punchline, if you will, of the movie, definitely. That definitely conveys word to Sweet Amy. She would be the first person to tell you that hits hard at the end. In terms of the movie sticking around beyond that, if you have seen it a handful of times, which the most of us have, I don't know if it did as much, to be completely honest. I think it's a great movie, but I did feel like I was just kind of, maybe I was too meticulous in my watching this time, because what's going to happen and you're just kind of trying to make sure that it adds up. And so you're watching it kind of from a different point of view and over analysis point of view, for better or worse. But we'll get into that as we go along. Ultimately, I enjoyed both movies quite a bit, and I've seen them both quite a bit, so that says a lot about both of them.
Okay, so the question is, did the movies age well? Rushmore, most definitely, I think, aged perfectly. I mean, it's like Savage was saying, it's kind of its own Wes Anderson style, its own universe, or its own world. I had a question for Beware. You said it's something about kind of Wes Anderson relies on cliche. I was wondering what you meant by that.
Maybe I didn't frame that right. I just feel like there's certain Wes
classic
stereotype.
storylines, or
Yeah, well, he's got stereotypes like Wes Anderson's.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Like,
So
all
yeah,
of his
like stereotypes, sure.
He's got like.
So I think that
yeah.
yes, I mean the story like is very clear. It's like this young man falls in love with this older woman, also while befriending this old rich guy, unhappy rich drunk guy, and who he just kind of like respects. And I think that their relationship is so funny and cool. It's just a great movie, and the fact that they both fall in love with the same woman is like, and then they just feud over it. It's the plot is very simple, but it's like it's so artfully done that I don't know. It's very entertaining to watch it over and over again. You find little stuff. It's kind of like watching. For me, it was almost kind of comparable to like The Big Lebowski or something. I'll just all the little details in it. So yeah, very very much 2 thumbs up for aging well for Rushmore. It was like one of my favorite watches of this whole thing. It was cracking me up. I have to say, as far as Usual Suspects goes, I was thinking, even without this question being posed, that it didn't age well for me. Obviously, the payoff at the end blew my mind when I was in high school. But something, I don't know, something about the tone of like all these guys. I find it hard for this group of dudes to be considered the baddest of bad criminal guys. To me, it just didn't ring true. It's not like comparable to like Departed or something like that, where those actual gangsters are believable to me.
Right. Stephen Baldwin doesn't fool anybody in this movie.
No. You know, he does that thing. The first scene that really was noticed when they round them up.
The lineup scene.
And it's the lineup scene, and with Kevin Spacey narrating it, I don't know. Something was off about that, I guess. But the part where they're grilling Kevin Pollak and he says the coolest thing ever, where he says, fuck your father in the shower and then go have a snack. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, that's disgusting. You're going to go fuck his dad? Like, what?
Savage.
So that was weird. Anyway, there's like a maybe kind of like a bunch of like weird little things that I caught in there that I was like, oh, that's weird. Why did they do that? Why did they throw that in there? So I don't know. It was fun to watch it. I haven't seen it in years, but yeah, it just didn't hit the mark for me, unfortunately.
On the topic of some of the bad dialogue from Usual Suspects, I wrote down a few, and I hadn't done this for any other movie. There's some awesome dialogue, but one of the worst and stupidest lines are both said by Stephen Baldwin McManus. He's like sniping people, I think around the time of the boat, you know, the big fuck up on the boat, and he's like sniping people. And he says
Oswald was a fag,
and it's such a stupid fucking line. Like, it doesn't even I understand what he's going after, and then it goes and it cuts away and shows some more action sequence, and then it goes to him singing Old MacDonald Had a Farm. Old MacDonald shot some guys, and it's, I mean, like, back to back, like, terrible fucking dialogue, like,
shot some guys. Bada boom, bada
so
bing,
bad.
boom.
And you know what he ends it with? Where he goes, and Elvis has left the building.
So bad. It's like a turkey in bowling, like 3 strikes, man. It's not good. Like, his
I did not even get that far. I turned it off like towards the end of it, and I kind of wish I would have stuck with it. Sorry, I just admitted that I didn't complete my homework.
Wow, I was going to put Cap on the spot right there. That's
I just couldn't, man. I was like, this is
all right.
fucking
Then this is what I got to
good.
say. You know, I wrote the intro basically saying, did these movies age well? Rushmore is like The Big Lebowski. You keep on finding more and more gems in it. The Usual Suspects, I thought, was the worst movie on our list. I don't think it's a great movie. I think it's a good movie. We are putting that movie under that lens of greatness. And like the Cap said, I felt vulnerable through it. I felt like this is not hitting. There was stuff that was cracking me up. I mean, we have some quotables. We have some good scenes. And shout out Kevin Spacey. I think he's honestly been on more movies so far than anybody else. We'd have to check, or it's tied. It's like 4 or something. So he did his thing in that. But really, I did think this movie wasn't necessarily great. It
I
has
thought it was
that
Jack
effect.
Nicholson or no.
I think so. Here's my homework assignment in the next, maybe the next episode or after that, or maybe by the end of this round, is to have that information of like what was like the main actor, actress in like the majority of movies, who's moving on to the second round, and like directors and that sort of thing. I think
Yeah,
that's really cool
directors, directed by.
Yep.
Yeah,
So I'll
like,
have that for us.
Good. The doc will have those facts for us. But just to wrap that up, it's okay. We found a movie we loved in high school, and like 7 had this effect, a bunch of ones, but there is different. They age a little better. 7, although it has that kind of ending and stuff, it still survives to this day and deserves to be on the greatest list, even though it's not going on to the next round. I don't feel like Usual Suspects deserve to be on this. I'm glad it was, though, so we can see this perspective.
So I really, as I mentioned, like I enjoyed watching it. I think because I went in having such low expectations, but I do agree with you guys. I don't think that this holds up. You know, we talked about Shawshank as that, you know, one time you watch it and that huge ending, but like I actually enjoy watching that over and over, and because there's more scenes in there that are really good.
Yeah, the whole movie is good.
Yeah, you care about the characters. The dialogue's great. But here, I don't feel like I didn't care really about any of the characters in The Usual Suspects. And I didn't care anything about like we just kind of mentioned, the dialogue was kind of all throwaway because they knew they had this great, you know, ending. But I love how, though, we can revisit movies that in our time or at a point in which we watch them, we're like, holy shit, like these mind fucks. And we can revisit them and be like, man, not that good. Because, you know, we're going to be at coming of age where we're these older dudes recommending, oh, have you ever seen this movie? Have you ever seen this movie to folks that are, you know, like maybe younger generation or generation or two under us? And this is a good one to maybe note that, yeah, it's got an ending, but like we can kind of, yeah, we go see Usual Suspects. Yeah, the dialogue's kind of crappy, but like just wait for it, you know?
It feels to me like Fugitive did. After I watched Fugitive,
yes,
it was
for
like,
sure.
This movie, I can see why people liked it. It's a strong action movie. It is what it is. It gets across what it's trying to get across, and well. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a very early, mid-90s movie. And it feels like it, man.
And it's a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
And that it's really just that ending. And so it's crazy because this movie is top movies number 32 of all time on the list. It's got an 8.5.
Wow.
No way.
I know, and it's good. I'm glad that we watched it so that we could watch it through this different lens.
It's interesting to know like how much a big pop exclamation point ending lends to just the overall, you know, cachet of a movie. You know, it doesn't. They don't all. Most movies don't have endings like that. You know what I mean? Right. I don't expect them to.
Like if you were studying, if your main goal, if somebody said, "I will give you $1 trillion to make a movie that gets the highest rating on IMDb" or something like that, you'd go and study what movies have the highest rating, what aspects about them, and given that The Usual Suspects doesn't really have good acting, and similar with Shawshank, the ending, the twist ending, or that like seems to carry a lot of weight. And so if you were gonna try to recreate that formula of a winning movie, that would probably be part of it based on what viewers, you know, rate these movies.
And I think that turns people into film lovers. I think it's that, like I said, one of those themes we're seeing that we actually really appreciated in watching movies is those ones that have that effect that you leave the movie theater talking about it. You can't stop thinking about it. You want to view it again to see, oh, now I know the secret. Tonight, I'd like to try a challenge for my thread members. And as we pass around great favorite character from the 2 films, let's try not to do any steals. This is going to be very hard, I think. And I'm going to go last, so I have the hardest challenge.
Yeah. So I do think my favorite character, and I used to have a this kind of lends to some of the like the nerdy stuff I used to do, but I used to have a shirt with Kobayashi. It's the scene where the boys are going after Kobayashi. And it doesn't really work out too well, but they're pointing a gun to his head. And I used to have that shirt. I don't even know how I was able to wear that to school, but I mean, which is insane. But and it's going to be Kobayashi just because I think he's got that look there's something super mysterious about him. He only really fears Kaiser Soze. He's got all that information on everybody. He gives those dossiers of all those unsolved crimes that these folks have been that committed it, and as kind of some sort of collateral to stay in line. He's got a perfect face for whatever he is. I can't even say his name is Mr. Kobayashi because it obviously is not, because that's not a real name. And I just think that his character, once he comes into that movie, a former favorite movie of mine, he really is able to advance a lot of the story, because it is kind of muddy waters for a good chunk of that movie, where you don't really know how much of the storyline is true, especially rewatching the second and third and fifth and 20th time. You don't really know how much of the movie is true, or how much is being being fed to Special Agent Kuyan. So Kobayashi for me would be kind of the bell ringer for my favorite character out of the two movies.
Hey, so real quick, I'm looking this guy up, and his name is Pete Postlethwaite. I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah, Postlethwaite. Yep.
Postlethwaite.
He just died in January.
I was gonna say R.I.P. Yep, R.I.P. But he's been in some great movies that we know: The Town, Inception, The Player. So,
Cap, why don't you give us your favorite character? Cap.
Take dead aim at the rich boys. Get them in your crosshairs and take them down. Herman J. Bloom's got a lot of wisdom. He drives a cool car. Yeah, he's definitely my favorite character. I think that you can't really have Herman Bloom without Max Fisher, but I do think that it's a really cool balance. I feel like Jason Schwartzman catches his eye, and the whole time he thinks that he's the son of a brain surgeon, and you get the scene where they finally sort of make up towards the end of the movie, and he comes in to get a haircut from his dad. So he realizes that he isn't cut from some type of rich cloth. Some of the stuff that he does in the movie, some of the scenes that they have him do, where he's drinking and he's wearing the Budweiser swim trunks and throwing golf balls into the pool for no fucking reason, and jumping in the water, and just that whole thing. You don't really do that and get that many laughs or get that much, I don't know, remembrance out of a scene like that if it's not Bill Murray. So I don't know how many people can just pull off that coolness. I've always wanted the Budweiser swim trunks. Couple
Cap,
of stuff. Yeah.
Do you want them right now? Is that your memorabilia?
Oh yeah. I'll take it. Yeah.
They're yours, buddy. You just took them home.
Another small. I guess it's a lot of it isn't so much in his dialogue. I'm sure I could think of plenty of things that he says that kill me, but the smile that comes across his face when he starts getting stung by bees. And the smile when he zooms in on that little tube that's feeding the bees into his hotel room. Yeah. After he gets him thrown out of his house for cheating on his wife. After he does that, he puts the bees. It's fucking ruthless. It's fucking ruthless of Max Fisher to do that, because he's already down on his shit. So he's just eating his meal in his robe, and then he starts getting stung by bees, and then he sees that and smiles, and it's like from then on it's on. And that's like one of my favorite sequences is when they're going back and forth, and he gets his bike, and then he cuts the brakes, and then he calls the police, and it's great. It's great.
A savage prank war.
Oh my God, yeah. So,
Beware. Why don't you? We have no steals yet. Everybody's had a different character. We have one from Usual Suspects, one from Rushmore. Beware.
There's so many different routes that I could go with this, and I'm gonna go with a bit role. I really, really like Herman Bloom's kids, the twins. I just think they're so ridiculous.
Never in my wildest dreams would I imagine that I'd have sons like these.
So good. They're so well written in contrast to his character. He's really like relatively mild-mannered. Obviously, Max brings the best out of him from the opposite of the mild-mannered perspective. But like these
Unlock
kids, these the kids are fireballs, and he just doesn't know how to handle it. They've run him rampant. He's at his like wit's end because of them, and he just gets walked all over, and it's so funny. My favorite scene, maybe in the entire movie, is when the kids get into the car for the first time and immediately start hitting all the air conditioning buttons.
In the Bentley.
He reaches back and slaps him.
Funny.
You're gonna be girls there, Dad. Pull your head out of your ass. And he just reaches back. That's one of my best.
Well, what's brilliant too is like
back.
Pull your head out of your ass, and there's like a brilliant beat of comedy, pause.
Yes.
And then the woof, just the immediate, which.
Oh, that's a decision that you make.
Oh
yeah,
man, and it's
for sure.
timed perfectly.
They're my favorite. They're my favorite characters.
I love that. Let's go to Doc for his favorite character.
Oh man, so I gotta say it because it hasn't been said yet, but you guys have all kind of alluded to it, and I appreciate you guys bringing up other characters. But I gotta go with Max Fisher. The charisma, I guess is the word, like to describe him, and I just love the irony of his character is that he's so involved in so many other things. And is so good at it. Well, not good at it because like he's on like the JV wrestling team, and he's he's like like assistant to the president. Some of like clubs he started, but some like he's.
I'm an alternate.
What was that?
I'm an alternate.
Yeah, I'm an alternate. Yeah, it's for the wrestling team. So like I love that, but the very thing that like affords him the opportunity to be a part of all those things is like doing well in school, and he can't manage to do that. And I just love that idea, and I love that idea of spreading oneself so thin to be so involved. I also love, this was brought up earlier, but like his character is so genuine and so insecure, and we mentioned like he immediately connects with Bill Murray or Herman Bloom because of like that quote that he says, I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, or no, a lot of you was born with a silver spoon in your mouth, and he connects with that because he's not, even though he's kind of fakes it, as we mentioned, how he says like Dad was a brain surgeon, which is also a funny joke because he cuts hair and that sort of thing. But I love him as a character because he's so honest and really like he has it in his mind. He can kind of do anything he puts his mind to, and that's when he finds Miss Cross and pursues her and reinvigorates Latin and all that. It's just he's a genuine kid and so passionate.
Save Latin. What did you ever do?
And then I love when he's talking about Latin and you hear they're trying to change it, and she says something to him and he goes, "Oh, what's that? Oh, is that Latin?" And then his closing argument is, so I end with this: is Latin dead? I don't know, just so good, man, so good. I don't know, he's the man.
I just wanted to point out that I was about 3/4 of the way through the movie, and I can't remember what point it is because there's multiple where it applies. But I just thought to myself, Max is the master. He is. We just got done watching The Master. He is the master. He just has these wild-eyed concepts that he borderline is pulling completely out of his ass.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
He's so determined. He's so determined, and he can get anybody on board with him no matter what. And he can totally derail their lives, and yet they maintain because he's just so at all costs. And it's just so great.
Like the fact is like he's building an aquarium on the baseball field, and it's like they are actually having like the groundbreaking ceremony. They're like, "What's going on here?"
How much are you worth? About 10 million or so? Yeah. Good. We're gonna need all of it.
Was this Jason Schwartzman's first movie?
Yeah, man. First movie and first
auditions. Knocked it out of the park, man.
Yeah, man.
Knocked it out of the park.
What I love about this is he got the role. So this is, and Wes Anderson talks about this in like the Criterion Collection special features, but he says like they were going through auditions and this like for months, auditions across multiple like continents and countries. I think they were in like obviously US, Canada, and I think they went out to like Scotland and Europe and stuff. and like he was on the last day, one of the last kids, and he came in wearing a Rushmore jacket that he made himself to audition in. And I think I don't know what his age was, but I'm guessing he was maybe like 15, 16, maybe a little older, maybe a little younger, I don't know.
Wow.
But like definitely stole it. And Wes says like as soon as he auditioned, he knew that's who he wanted. He told him, he said, hey, go take a walk, we got a couple more people, but like I want to talk with you afterwards. And they casted him right there on the spot. And then yeah, we all kind of know what his career's kind of turned into after that. But yeah, first
that's great. And he's fabulous. And
I honestly I think he's great, and I think he's been in some good stuff, but I don't think that he ever got a role that was as great as that one, unfortunately. Like, he's been in some great movies, and he just got so lucky to have that be his first acting job. I think that's super cool. It's a good story.
I had a feeling it would be hard not to steal characters for this movie. We're going to give a nod tonight to Mr. Little Jeans, as he's called in the cast.
Yes.
Kumar. We have our what's his last name? Somebody
Polana.
pronounce it for me. Polana. Yeah, really great. But let's give it up to Bert Fisher, his dad, Max Fisher's dad. Obviously, there was other characters I would have liked to say, but he was so solid throughout the movie, even with the line that, the last one, what we already said about...
I understand you're a neurosurgeon.
No, I'm a barber. But a lot of people make that mistake.
Yeah, that's my favorite character tonight. And solid cast, obviously.
Can we give another quick shout out to Brian Cox as Dr. Guggenheim?
He's great.
And just the drama he brings to it. He's one of the worst students we have.
He's one of the worst students we've got.
One other quick shout out too is Benicio del Toro, man. He is the best character in Usual Suspects. No doubt about it, in my opinion. His accent is amazing.
Give me the keys, you fucking cocksucker, what the fuck?
Give me the fucking keys, you fucking cocksucker, what the fuck?
Hey, everybody try it. Come on, I know we all...
Give me the fucking keys, you cocksucker, motherfucker!
Give me the keys, you cocksucker, what the fuck? So something interesting I learned about that is Benicio del Toro, he knew that he was going to knew his role didn't matter. And so they told him to improvise like what his accent is. And he did so in such a way that it didn't matter how he said it, whatever. He said he knew he was going to get acts anyway. He said, it doesn't matter what I say anyways. And I think people Kevin Pollak was like reflecting on like the asshole, like knew he was only going to be in a couple scenes and didn't give a shit about how he said his lines and ended up stealing pretty much every scene he was in as a result.
Wow. Number 3, step forward.
How many keys, you cocksucker?
In English, please.
Excuse me?
In English.
How many fucking keys, you cocksucker? What the fuck?
Number 4, step
He'll
forward.
flip you. He'll what? He'll flip you. He'll flip you for real.
He'll flip you for real.
That's a fact. Definitely best character in that movie if you break it down. Let's talk about scenes. I'm going to bring it over to Rushmore for my favorite scene. After Max has his play and he's walking down, and it's in our thread quote. This is one of our quotes. He says, he's talking about the play and he ends up getting punched in the face.
What happened to the cannoli line, Max? You're supposed to say forget about it, Sanchez. The old man likes his cannoli.
Look, I made a mistake, all right? It didn't make any difference anyway.
Hey, I'm letting it go. But don't say it doesn't matter. Every line matters.
Get off my back!
Don't fuck with my play! Hey, break it up!
What got me about that scene is the priest walking down there sounds exactly like Bill Murray. I swear to God. And I'm like, it had me thinking, I'm like, is this character based off Bill Murray? And did Bill Murray just dub in this kid's like deep voice or whatever? But I swear, watch that scene where they're walking down the hallway where Max gets punched in the nose. And this kid, the priest, sounds exactly like Bill Murray. But I love that shit. I was so sent by that. It was absolutely my favorite.
My favorite scene from Rushmore is the dinner scene after his play, where you get invited to Luke Wilson for the first time. And Max is so fired up And on top of that, he's been drinking.
He's drunk,
and
right?
Giving him hell. He's giving him hell so much where he cannot like say anything without chopping his head off. And it is so uncomfortable for everybody else at the table. And the viewer, I was dying at the entire scene. And then when Herman says, "Take it easy, Max," and she says, "You were the one that gave him a whiskey and soda." It's like, yeah, that's fair.
Check, please.
So that scene basically opens up though with him saying, I like your scrubs.
I like
guy."
your nurse's uniform, guy.
These are OR scrubs.
Oh, are they? Well, they're totally inappropriate for the occasion.
Well,
And he goes,
Oh, are they? So classic. I
And
feel
then,
like that.
yeah, and then Bill Murray just
Classic
kind of
line.
chokes on his drink as he's laughing.
so good.
I got a couple, two scenes from Rushmore. Both are real quick. One is the front porch scene where Herman Bloom goes to see Rosemary at her house, and he basically just the dialogue between the two of them, where he's almost like kind of childlike. It's almost a very like adolescent scene where he's like super nervous. Does Max have something planned for us today? It's obvious why he's there. And she's, eating what are those, carrots? She's like, yeah. She's just like, I'm having a little snack. And would you like one of these? And he goes, yeah, I'll have one of those. And he just gets real close or takes one, eats it, and then, or we could go for a walk now. And he kind of gets like right in her face and says, okay. So that exchange I think was pretty genuine. And then the other one is just kind of the eruption, the whole viewing of the play, getting them together where they have the cigarette out and they kind of settle on being with each other. It seems like, it's pretty subtle, but the end of the plays are awesome, but like that play is his biggest, opus. It's his masterpiece. So the ending of that play where she kind of, Margaret sneaks up on him from behind and he turns around and he says, will you marry me at the end? It just kind of implies that there's this whole love story and this epic play that went down, and like these enemies had fallen in love throughout it. I just love that. And then that's just the reaction from the crowd where you see Herman Bloom crying, and that Pagoda or whatever, the guy that is out in every movie is just like laughing insanely. When I watched it, I was like, that almost seems kind of out of place, but not really. It's just like hysteric, like the hysterical reaction from the crowd is pretty great, and then just the following party. Just the way that the movie wraps up, and even the very, very, very final scene where he gets the DJ to put on the Van Morrison music, and he kind of finally gets to have this genuine friendship, platonic, everything's settled and everything's good and everybody loves each other, dance with this woman that he was in love with. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, soundtrack wise, I mean, there's so many parts in Rush. Wes Anderson does kind of treats his music as like a character throughout all of his movies. I'll never hear Ooh La La without thinking of Rushmore. I think that movie is always going to be tied with that song. But
It's
it is
Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart's group, yeah.
I wish that I knew what I know now.
And it's perfect. I mean, there's
it is perfect song for the end of the movie. It really the lyrics really encapsulate the whole movie and Max's point of view for sure.
And then having that over on the slow-mo kind of dance, and it pans out to everybody kind of dancing, and
the fact that Max requests it too, because he said doesn't even request saying let's liven it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I think it's where Margaret and Max are flying airplanes, and it goes into The Wind by Cat Stevens. That's like, that part's like magic. The way that Cat Stevens used for that.
Possible candidates for Kite Flying Society. David Connors, Rory Marshall, Greg Holloway, Duncan Wright, Margaret Yang.
There's some great music choices. Obviously, it's kind of littered with Mark Mothersbaugh, like Tenenbaums and
no wasted space with Wes Anderson.
Not at all. No.
With all that space, Sav, what really captured you the most out of that movie? Favorite scene from just that movie? You can give us both if you'd like.
Yeah, favorite scene. Well, I mean, my favorite scene overall is going to be the ending of Usual Suspects. I'm holding on to my nostalgia from 1998. I still think that the ending scene to The Usual Suspects is one of my favorite scenes.
When he stops limping,
when he straightens his hand out and he's able to light the cigarette, which he wasn't able to do earlier, and then obviously seeing Kobayashi or whatever the lawyer's name is behind the wheel of the Jag as they pull away. I don't know, man. The dropping of the Kobayashi mug, like during that whole thing.
The Kobayashi close up. I actually kind of laughed at that. How blatant it was.
Yeah, and then rewatch like after knowing the ending too, like seeing how obvious everything was. Like he's like staring at the bottom of his mug and he's talking about him. I mean, there's so many. It's obvious that it's Kaiser Soze, and I guess when I was an 8th grader, it didn't even occur to me that Kevin Spacey was, the man in charge. But anyway, the ending scene's got to be. It's just that's the one. I mean, it's just
all right. Give me your favorite Rushmore scene though, Sav, because I want to know.
Man, there's a lot of scenes from Rushmore that really that I really did like, but the best scene from Rushmore is probably when Max is getting expelled and Dirk sees Max. Dirk's a younger kid, kind of looks up to Max, and he sees Max crying, like being talked down to by our friend from Succession. What did we say his name was again? I always blank on it. Brian Cox. And I think there's like a nun in there, and they're just reading him the riot act, and he's crying. That's a pretty powerful scene. That's got to be my favorite from Rushmore.
Doc, Rushmore, probably one of your, this is Wes Anderson, I feel like was Doc's greatest of greatest and might still be. So why don't you give it your favorite from one of the greatest?
Yeah, he definitely still is. And if kind of with that kind of segue, is it okay if I kind of just power off a couple real quick?
Power off, please.
Okay. So one, the block shot where Bill Murray's on the telephone walking and the kid's playing basketball and he just runs and blocks the shot is great. Like obviously ad-libbed, obviously hilarious that they decided to continue to include it in the movie. It's perfect.
That was ad-libbed. That's fucking amazing.
The extracurricular montage in the beginning with, I think it's either Rolling Stones or the Kinks like played over it, where you really see all this shit that he's involved in, and it kind of really introduces you to who this character is. I just love that. It's just, and it's all artfully done. Each scene is meticulously kind of put together, are like representative of like old French films or old like famous kind of like photographs, like him sitting with his legs to the side on the
Yankee Racers Foundation. Yes, that is the one that stood out to me. Where he's wearing the hat, he's got that look on his face. It's so perfect.
So good.
I agree, though, that whole montage or whatever is such a great way to kick off this introduction to this epic character. You know what I mean? He's bigger than life, so like you got to show all his clubs. It's cool.
Amazing, and how it shows like founder and like you said, I don't think it says alternate, but like how it shows like all the things that he's in, but like what his role is in all of them too. And I love that. Next scene, so kind of getting a little bit more on the heavy side, is the scene, and I think Cap, you brought this up a little bit, but the scene where Dirk confronts Herman Bloom, and he says, I know about you and the teacher. And, that's where he's standing in front of the Bentley, Dirk Calloway, and Bill Murray gets out, and he's like, oh yeah, you're going to tell Max? Like, he's afraid that he's going to tell Max on him. He goes, oh, yeah? With friends like you, who needs friends? And then he spits on the car. And then that's where Bill Murray tries to get back in the car, and the twins lock him out. And he goes, unlock it! Unlock it! It's so good.
That's one of my favorite parts. Unlock it. And it's muffled. It's
yeah, because it's from
him
inside.
screaming from and the camera and the mic. I would think
that's a great
are
point,
in the inside of the car, and you hear
go,
you hear it from the outside, and it's like a powerful effect
that is great.
that you can hear it from the outside.
I didn't pick up on that, but that's great. Another real quick kind of glimpse scene is in the elevator scene. I think it's after the revenge scene when they're going to visit Dr. Guggenheim after he's kind of had a stroke or something. Max is already in public school. He hasn't been talking with Herman Bloom. Herman Bloom's been kicked out, and he's just on the ropes, not looking good. And where he's kind of, he says, "Hey, amigo," and he's just all super disheveled, and he's got like his shirt all undone, and he's got a black eye, I think. And he says, she's in love with that dead guy anyways. And he lights a second cigarette. And then Max goes, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "I'm a little bit lonely these days." And he just walks out after he fills up I think he has like a little shot of something, and then he like hides it, tucks it under the.
He hides it in like the towel
he
rack
puts it.
on the
Yeah,
cart.
he puts it. Yeah, the cart. It's just the maid's cart.
So good. And then the last one is actually, this is my favorite scene where, and I think this was brought up earlier too, but where Max and Herman kind of reunite, get together, and Max takes him to his dad's barber and gets him cleaned up. And again, that's where Herman's on the ropes. He gets him all cleaned up, and this is where Herman kind of realizes, oh, your dad's not a neurosurgeon, he's a barber, and it kind of like it all kind of clicks together. And then right after that scene is they go out outside, and that's where Max gives him one of his 2 pins, and he says, which one do you want? I think it's punctuality or attendance. And Herman's tickled by this, and he's like, I'll take punctuality, but there's something just so like, yeah, super gen. They're reconciling, their relationships, and yeah, it's a nice friendship, relationship, kind of love dynamic.
Hey, just some good old guy love, and we love it here on our thread. Genuine guy love. Doc, I'm glad you unloaded on us. I know this is one of your favorite movies, and really, this is one of the ones I do like watching with everybody. It would have been a good viewing together, but we'll see what happens next. But let's talk about quotables. There's been a lot said, and I only have one tonight. It's a Max line.
What's this all about?
Did you say my mom gave you a hand job?
What?
Did you say it?
Who told you that goddamn lie? Never mind, I know who said it. I'm gonna stick a knife in his heart. I'm gonna send him back to Ireland in a body bag.
He's from Scotland.
We'll tell that stupid Mick he just made my list of things to do today. I'm gonna pop a cap in his ass.
He calls him a stupid Mick.
I love that.
So what's the husband's name?
Mr. Appleby or
Edward.
Edward Appleby.
Edward Appleby. Yeah. Okay. So when Max Fisher fakes a head injury, a car accident this is like the last final desperate attempt. He shouldn't be around her. He gets into her bedroom and then puts on that music.
French music, yeah.
Yep. And then they start talking. And he's kind of got it in his head that he's conceding to Herman Bloom as far as like this love relationship goes, even though he kind of steals a kiss. But when they're talking and she's trying to say that, first of all, he hates himself and like, this isn't why we're together. And they kind of start talking about, why she's still in love with Edward Appleby. Yeah. And she says, Edward Appleby has more talent and whatever in his fingernail. Yeah. And he just goes, one dead fingernail. And
Murdered.
It's such a touching sort of scene, but that line is like very, very memorable for me. And yeah, that's the only one that I really want to mention.
He handles it really well too. She's like, yeah, he's being serious. It's a funny line, but like that's why it's funny, is because it's such a serious moment. I think that juxtaposition really works there. I like when the dean tells Max So we're putting you on sudden death academic probation. Max goes, and what does that entail? So obvious what it entails.
I'm gonna go back over to Usual Suspects. I know I talked about some of the really bad lines from that movie. The the Stephen Baldwin saying when they call him fucko and he does the fucko and the brrr, I do laugh at that. I still think that's a really funny line. And a really good line I like as well that I'd forgotten about it, but I knew back in the day I really liked it. Like the boys meet up with Redfoot, and McManus and Redfoot are kind of jawing at each other a little bit. And Redfoot's like in the power position because he's kind of the boss on the West Coast. And he flicks a cigarette at McManus and says, "Put a leash on that puppy." And I think that's a fucking great line. That's an awesome thing to say.
So real quick, that scene, I agree. I think that's great too. That scene though, where he flicks the cigarette, he was supposed to do that at his like chest or at his feet, I forget. But he accidentally went towards his face, and so when you see Baldwin's reaction, that's like he's not expecting that cigarette to come at his face, and you see him, he like whips away quick. It's
Yeah, it looks like it hits him in like the upper face, like kind of like the eye nose region, and it looks a little. I mean, it doesn't look. That's. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because that's immediately what I thought was, whoa, fuck, he just got dined.
Hey Doc, why don't you hit us with the quotable?
We already kind of said it. Like, give me the fucking key. You give me the keys, you fucking cocksucker. Like that is the quotable from Usual Suspects. I just mentioned it right there. But that whole scene.
No, hey, we're gonna have it twice now. So,
How many keys, you cocksucker?
In English, please.
Excuse me.
In English.
How many fucking keys, you cocksucker? What the fuck?
the folks out there got to hear it twice tonight, and I love that because it's my favorite. I laughed harder when he said that than I did in anything in Rushmore. So you have that, folks. You have that.
While we're quickly before you move on, also on the Usual Suspects ridiculous 10 out of 10 quote-o-meter, can you also add in there is no fucking coke?
A couple that I have from Rushmore is there's a part, it's in one of the end, towards the end where they're doing the play, and it's like kind of the break between the play, and Max Fisher is putting makeup on Dirk Calloway, and Dirk Calloway goes, "Man, it's gonna look stupid," and Max Fisher goes, "No, it's not. It's gonna look real." Where he's putting fake blood on him. I just love that. It's kind of just like a summary of the movie too. It's like everybody doubting, and Max Fisher just has this kind of unabashed confidence of everything that he does is going to turn out.
I love that.
And let's see, the were you in the shit? Yeah, I was in the shit. As he's buying him popcorn at the wrestling match he's got little tickets. I got this one, and I think this is it right here. This is and I'll pass it. But where Herman Bloom is his introduction to Max Fisher, and Herman Bloom kind of looks at him and he goes, "What's the secret, Max?" And Max says, "Find something you love doing it and do it for the rest of your life." And for me, that's Rushmore. And I love that.
Fantastic. Fantastic for quotables. We're going to go into memorabilia. I'm going to go first tonight because the first note I have, because I watched Rushmore first, folks, is memorabilia, painting in the beginning, Bloom family portrait. First note I took for the film. It's fantastic. And that artwork it runs another one of those, not cliches, but themes or whatever that run throughout Wes Anderson's movie. You got to love that. That is my memorabilia choice for the night. Beware.
I'm going to go with Stephen Baldwin's red and black leather jacket. It's very bold, very 90s.
Doc, what would your piece of memorabilia be?
Hey, so I actually almost forgot to say this, but I love one of the things when I first started watching Usual Suspects that I remembered is that Ben's mom used to always call us the Usual Suspects. Like, who's coming over tonight? The Usual Suspects.
Oh,
and
wow.
so,
I don't even know that.
So there's like that. I don't know if that was like back in 98, maybe 99. But I love that Ben's mom was down with Usual Suspects and was using that to reference the crew. My memorabilia would be, Herman Bloom chose punctuality pin, so I think I'd have to take attendance.
I love that. And Doc, you do have perfect attendance. Cap, you will be marked down for not finishing the movie, even though it's okay, but you've been marked down a full grade. Get your grades up, Cap.
Fair enough. I'm on
Get your grades
academic
up.
probation. Sudden death.
That's what it is. Savage shared with me he was a little upset. He had the same piece of memorabilia as me, the Bloom family portrait. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it to him. Savage.
No, I'll take the Bentley instead. Never mind.
Oh, you're definitely not getting that. I had it already packed
With
up and
spit and all.
Oh, yeah, with Dirk spit. Yeah,
good
that's
choice.
great.
Bougie.
I only got a pair of swim trunks. I should have taken the Bentley.
It's that time of the night, folks, where we are going to go to the vote. And tonight, I think I've already kind of let it go early. I didn't think this movie was great. I thought it was good. Usual Suspects didn't age as well as I would want it to, compared to Rushmore that's continues to age every time I watch it. My vote tonight is for Rushmore. Cap?
Yeah, in a word, Rushmore. Obvious choice for me. I didn't care for Usual Suspects this time around. I feel like maybe I've seen that movie 3 or 4 times. None of them really measured up the first time that I watched it. So this was actually my favorite time watching Rushmore. Yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I went into this thinking that Usual Suspects would make it a lot farther. It's not as good of a movie as I clearly remember it. So my vote's going to be for Rushmore. Kind of an interesting anecdote about Rushmore is that's the first DVD I ever watched, which is kind of a weird thing to remember. So I have very, very vivid memories of watching both these movies, and they were in the same room.
Cool DVD.
Different times, but it was the
always
first
came
DVD
with a little bit more too.
I watched it on a computer. We didn't have a DVD player. I watched it on my computer. Yeah.
CD-ROM. Beware, Rushmore or Usual Suspects?
I went into these movies thinking more than likely Usual Suspects will win. It's just, a better film, It's just not the case at all. Just so far from what my expectations were going into the viewing. Rushmore is definitely gonna take this one easily.
Like Cap said, I think it was one of my favorites too, but we'll find out. Could be a grade 8 Final Four contender. Let's go to Doc real quick. And Doc, before you give us our vote, I'd love to hear about those awards for these two films.
So the awards, and we usually just go over the Academy Awards and who maybe got an Oscar nom and who took one away. And between these two, the Usual Suspects actually got 2 Academy Award nominations, and they took home 2 Oscars for those Academy Awards. So Spacey got Best Supporting Actor, and he went up against Ed Harris for Apollo 13 and Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys, and ended up taking it home for that. And then also Best Writing Screenplay, Christopher McQuarrie. So they won. So it's a 2 Academy Award winner. Rushmore was not nominated for any Academy Awards. Had some award nominations and winners like Golden Globes. Actually took home a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor, Bill Murray. Bill Murray basically won things related to this movie and other types of award, but nothing major. And this was Wes Anderson's second full-length feature film.
Bottle Rocket into Rushmore.
Yep. And Bill Murray wanted to be a part of this right out the gate. He actually didn't know about Bottle Rocket. He had never seen Bottle Rocket. Read the script and loved it. Loved how detailed it was, and he knew that that's the type of director that he likes to work with. Yeah, so great movie to start basically his career, and basically kind of has carte blanche after this in his career.
I feel like he didn't have like a name for himself yet, even though this is one of his best movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
So it's funny that Will mentioned about the Rushmore DVD, because I actually, when these movies come up that I own the DVDs for, I actually try to go find those in my basement, pull them up, and watch them on the DVD. Especially this one, I have the Criterion collection, and so I wanted to watch like the special features, and I wanted to watch like the commentary, like Wes Anderson and Owen Wilson like talk over like the actual movie, and you get a lot of kind of inside info, and I love that. But that said, when I started watching, the quality was shit. But like, it's crazy to me. Like, I'm trying to watch DVDs, And if they're not like a high def or whatever, like the quality on a DVD is not good anymore, which is crazy to me because at the time like,
it was gold standard, and then it just looks like turds on a screen.
So I had the Criterion Collection DVD in my DVD player. Amy and I started watching it, and I stopped it and just bought it on Amazon because I wanted to watch it in more higher def clarity.
Nice. That's fantastic.
But so real quick, before I give my vote, I do want to give a shout out to Usual Suspects. I do want to give a shout out to Bryan Singer, director of Usual Suspects. He directed a lot of the X-Men films. Has had a pretty interesting career too. He directed The Queen of Bohemian Rhapsody. So interesting films, good director. And one of the funny things that I learned about him is that during the filming of, so this is my one fact for Usual Suspects, so I got to get it in, but I think it's a good one. During the filming of the movie, Bryan Singer convinced every one of the main actors that they were Kaiser Sose. So as they were filming the movie,
I love that.
Each actor thought that they were Kaiser Sose. And in fact, like when he first screened the movie for the actors, like for the first time, and they found out who actually Kaiser Sose was, Gabriel Byrne, who's Keaton, was pissed. He actually stormed out of the room because he was so stunned to find out.
First effect, baby. First effect.
That's pretty amazing.
And they actually got into like an argument, like in the parking lot and shit like that. And those are all the details that I had. But
I had no idea. That's crazy.
Neither did I.
Facts with
you think about it, you feel like all those actors are kind of acting like hard-ons as if they are Kaiser Sose, and it kind of makes sense that the influence that they played that role.
Hey, that makes me my appreciation just went up like 9%.
Yeah. That said, without any, I try not to fanboy too much over these movies that are in here, but I do feel like we talked at length, and I'm looking forward to talking about it more. Rushmore.
Fantastic, folks. A sweep that's well deserved, and I love finding out that some of these movies we're putting under the lens not necessarily don't belong here, because they do, because it's the discussion to find out what makes a movie great. But then again, we're here to find out what is the greatest movie of all time, and we're going to find out. Like the doctor said, we have an assignment, a Beware assignment, to switch up the intro music and add some new quotes, because we've picked all of them out of the hat, that little hat I pull movies from. And here's that little song about the hat that we're going to go to right now, folks.
It's a hat, it's a hat, it's a teddy, it's a hat.
Let's go do that. Let's go do that. Let's go do that. Let's go do that.
Take your hat off.
Excuse me?
Let's go do that. Let's go do that. Let's go do that.
It's a hat, it's a hat, it's a hat.
I'm shuffling. It still feels like there's a lot in here. It really does. We got lots more movies. I have one. Ooh, I have two. I got it. Upside down. Cap never believes me. It is upside down.
It's real small.
It's right side up, and I can see it. Wow. Slight R.L. Steins. No, that's actually, we have registered R.L. Steins, folks. I think we're going to be really happy about this. And the irony in this is fantastic. This is even keeping the R.L. Stein sticking around. Tonight, premiering on Hulu FX, we have Fargo season 4, and we're all actually very excited to go watch it. I'm going to see it tomorrow, folks, because I got to chop up this episode and get it out to you folks. But next week, we have Interstellar versus Fargo.
Oh, good one.
Man, that's a good one.
Yeah, I got goosebumps right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Very exciting. We're going to have to put one of those in the intro by Beware. Most definitely. So next week, ladies and gentlemen, episode 17, Interstellar versus Fargo. I mean, we only have one
better movie. I don't know.
I don't know. I love
that's like the one. This is the one that I don't immediately know what I'm going to vote for, or have like an inkling to know what I'm going to vote for.
It's realism versus the complete opposite of that.
And Interstellar has a huge first effect, but you have to keep on watching it to even make the first effect more substantial. You might be like, it's really hard to get this movie the first time. You might say you do, but the second time and third time, you like start to, whoa, man. It has a real whoa effect, and it continues to grow.
I got it the first time.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, a great episode tonight, and we will see you next week for two fabulous films, Interstellar versus Fargo. I'm going to go watch season 4 of Fargo on FX tonight or soon.
baby.
And let's hear that intro music that's going to be changed next week. So say farewell to these intro movie quotables on our Beware produced intro music. Go.
Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Well, it's very, homey.
What? Are you kidding? We got us a family here.
I hope you realize how you've hurt my feelings.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud. Next place. Just take it easy, man.
I'm perfectly confident.
Yeah, waving the fucking gun around?
Calmer than you are.
Look, I made a mistake, all right? It didn't make any difference anyway.
Hey, I'm letting it go. But don't say it doesn't matter. Every line matters.
Get off my back!
Don't fuck with my plan!
And like that, he's gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Our Thread Podcast, bringing our content to you, featuring all it is.
It's official, old buddy. Well, it has been.
Beware.
From then on, he was known as Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
The Doc.
You're the doc, Doc.
The Cap.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask? Big fuck.
And myself, Savage.
I'm 6'5", 220, and there's 2 of me.